So this one is on editing. Uh, I think I briefly mentioned in different classes that we need vocabulary, uh, vocabulary such as words that describe types of shots and editing style while writing the research paper. So it's always easier if we have the vocabulary. For example, if we know that we are looking at a close-up, while writing the paper, we can say that we can, we are looking at close-up of the protagonist. And it's always more interesting to read, by read, I mean, as I've said earlier, that film is also a language, or television program making uses the similar language that we say film language and film grammar of this language. So when we are talking about close-ups and when we are talking about long shots or establishing shots or zooming in and zooming out, we are actually talking about different kind of words or sentences. So you can say that each image in the film becomes a word. For example, close-up of a face, it is kind of providing you a complete sentence. For example, if you are looking at a scene that's showing a woman sitting on the beach, you can clearly understand the woman is sitting on the beach, and you can say the sentence. The sentence in terms of film language is that woman is sitting on the beach. Okay. So each shot serves as a sentence, and a number of sentences together or a number of shots together actually communicate to the viewer the complete message of the film. So film is a language in itself. And editing actually helps in creating meanings of, meanings through editing. And just as while we are talking, we are constantly editing what we want to say. We are constantly editing that in our minds. Similarly, when we are watching a film, we are constantly editing the film language through the shots. So the shots together tell us or tell the viewer the story of the film. So today's reading actually focuses on editing techniques. And this one, as I mentioned, is the reading that I have posted in Google Classroom. You can see a number of topics here. It says Dziga Vertov here, a man with a movie camera. So this is one of the oldest films. And when this film was shot, people actually did not realize the value or the importance of the film, right? In fact, the filmmaker lost his job or funding as a filmmaker. Nobody thought that he had done a great job. But over a period of time, this film, Man with a Movie Camera, became a classic. Vertov actually, when he lost his job or funding, future fundings as a filmmaker, had not realized that this will happen to him. But as I've said, that this is now considered a world classic, because Vertov is actually you can see that he has used different kind of shots. For example, this is the shot of a building, and from building he's cutting to this shot of people in the city, right? And from here he's cutting to the close-up of this minaret, or you can say the side of the building. And this is still another type of you can see that he's showing different type of shots. Here you can see a woman working in a factory. So this actually shows that women in Russia were working in factories even about 100 years ago. So you can definitely see that that these films are actually showing the life in the city, right? Then you see this close up of this machine, and another close up of the machine. You can say that this is probably side of the factory where the woman is working, and then this man, you can see that he's doing his job, right? And another image of a man walking on the streets, and you can see that this big poster on the left hand side. So actually you are learning that Russia had all the means of printing these big posters even 100 years ago, because this is a 1919 film. Okay, and then you also see close-ups of children and this woman working on the sewing machine. So this is again, that, and then you see close-ups of the machine. Okay, another man working in a factory, and this is then you look at these images from the city, from construction sites or road sites, etc. Okay, so you can clearly see that Vertov is actually trying to show life in the city, and this is a day in the life of people kind of film. Okay, and this shot he has taken from underneath a carriage, and you can see the wheels. Okay, so Vertov has actually tried showing life in the city, and he decided that he will walk through the city uh, with the camera, and you can say that this is also showing what kind of transportation Russia had back in 1919. And you can look at the infrastructure, big buildings, big buses, and all these things actually show that Russia was fully developed. The city was fully developed because the infrastructure is showing it was greatly developed. Okay, so what I mean that by looking at images from the past and contemporary images, you can actually compare the difference in the life, uh, you know, difference in the lives of people, difference in terms of infrastructure that was there in the city, and you learn a lot just by looking at the images, because if women were working in Russia back in 1919, you know that Russia was far advanced even in 1919. Okay, so here you are looking at a close-up of a woman, uh, right? And and from the close-up, he did cut to this scene. You can see lots of vehicles on the roads, and you can also see the road is very big. So he is actually intercutting between close-up of a woman and city, where again you can see that you are looking at too many vehicles on the road. I think I have mentioned in one of my classes that 1920s was actually the time of industrialization in advanced world, in first world, and here we can see that even the second world was fully advanced, right? So you are looking at many vehicles on the roads in Russia. You would probably find less number of cars in India or in British India back in 1919 or in 1920s, because I think there were hardly any cars in this part of the world. There must have been cars with the British, and we can see, if we look at pre-partition footage, we do see Jinnah traveling in different kind of different kind of vehicles, right? So what I'm saying, that images actually tell you not only about the time and history, they also tell you what kind of infrastructure was there, what kind of dresses people were wearing, and how advanced those people were, and how uh, like if they looked educated, if they looked uneducated, if they looked like factory workers, or if they looked like elite, right? So this video actually has lots of images that you can say is showing people of all sorts, and you can see that these cars are moving uh, towards you, right? These cars are moving towards south, while there is another vehicle which is crossing these cars. So it means that traffic light system had not, or traffic system, sign system has not fully developed back in 1919, because the car in the front is moving in the opposite direction. So this actually is showing, if you look at uh, other Hollywood films from this time, you can actually see old films actually show scenes in which you can actually see that if a man came walking in front of a car, the car would actually start going in circles, right? So old films actually show sometimes really funny scenes, which look funny because this traffic light system had not developed. But you can see that here in Russia, the scene was fully developed. I think you just saw a birth scene. Did you notice that there was a birth scene in this film? Uh, which only refers to change in terms of like medical sciences, etc. Because this film is actually showing perhaps two birth scenes: one in a which woman is lying on bed, and in another she is probably sitting. So it actually shows that medical surgery was actually, or medical sciences had actually tested different kind of positions for giving birth to a child. And this film actually captures that scene, which means that Vertov actually had done a lot for shooting this kind of film. Uh, right here, you are looking at a very different perspective of buildings, right? You can see that at the bottom of the screen, these buildings appear close to each other, while on top, you can see a bit of the sky. So, and at the same time, you can see this image superimposes the image of a man on the left hand side. Look at the bottom corner on the left, and you would see that Vertov had actually experimented with superimposing images. And here you can see the cameraman. Can you see this image on the left hand side? Vertov is actually standing here shooting uh, this uh, this image of the buildings, and he has superimposed cameraman, so basically to show the importance of filming, or importance of cameraman's work. So Vertov had actually experimented with different kind of editing techniques. Here he is superimposing two images. One is the image of the building, and other is the image of the cameraman. This was not done before him. In one of Padavkin films, you would realize that he's using high speed and slow speed motion. So actually, Russian filmmakers had invented many kind of editing techniques in those times, and that included superimposition, that included um, speed, slow speed or high speed capturing, and even reverse action, which means while cutting the film in the lab, these filmmakers realized that while you can see a man climbing up the stairs, you can also see a man going down the stairs by reversing the action. So you would actually be looking at a man who is getting down, but he's getting down with his back towards the audience, which means you would, in those times, people would worry, how is he getting down without looking at uh, what is in front of him. Okay, so you can understand that these films shot daily life, and he had juxtaposed images. Now, juxtaposition is a word which means that two images are juxtaposed to each other, they are put together. So we are looking at the city scene, and we are looking at the images of mother and infant. These two images juxtapose each other, and the meaning changes. Okay, and then here you are looking at an elevator. Again, as I said, that this is only showing how advanced Russia was even in 1919, right? So I perhaps cannot imagine elevators in British India in 1919, but Russia did have this technology. I think we are in 2020 and Pakistan still does not have this kind of elevators in many of the cities and in many of the buildings. So in that sense, it is important because it's showing not only the difference in development, the difference in settlement, it's also showing the economic difference between the two countries. You can see that Russia had this kind of uh, transportation system. You just saw these electric trains crossing in different directions. For example, this one is going to north, the other one is coming to the south, and one has just gone to the west, right? So you can say that Russia probably this kind of transportation system you would always also see in Amsterdam. So you can actually say that it was quite advanced even in those times. And I think they were trying to develop this kind of transportation system in Karachi for a very, very long time to solve issues in transportation issues in Karachi. But it has been very difficult. So you can actually say that electric trains were there, and the life was quite advanced. So I'm just saying that these images juxtapose each other, and that we just watched actually showed that we had different Russia had different kind of transportation system at the time. And as I said earlier, that traffic sign system had not fully developed probably, and that's why you are looking at different kind of vehicles going in different directions simultaneously. These images actually show some are images of the elite and some of the images of factory workers. So you can say that he has actually intercut between different kind of images that show life of the elite and life of the poor factory worker. So you actually see the difference between the elite and the poor, rich and poor, and what life had to offer to both of them. Any question for what I've said so far? I said this film is this film is posted in Google Classroom. So if you want to watch the film, 1919 film, you can actually learn how Vertov Vertov's film became a classic over a period of time. Though his job, this point onwards, after he shot this film, they appointed him as a newsreel editor, and he was working in news afterwards. So nobody had realized that it was a great film, and he had documented history of his times in a very beautiful style in this film. Right underneath, I have posted here this article that I just showed you. I said, if you click this link on the top, this article will open. And in this article, uh, it just shows what kind of editing techniques these Russian filmmakers were using at the time. The clips that you just saw were from Dziga Vertov's film, but apart from Vertov, Padavkin was another great Russian filmmaker. And here I have posted another, it says Eisenstein's montages or editing techniques. So, as a matter of fact, you can realize that though Russia was cut off, USSR did not have a relationship with the rest of the world, and first world and third world did not have a great relationship with many countries in the second world, because Russia had closed itself or its people to rest of the world in a certain style. So until Russia was actually split into many countries, which was fairly recently, this kind of communication or sharing was much less. For example, right now you can shoot on your cell phone and post on YouTube, or you can record on your computers directly and post on YouTube, which means communication is much faster. So I would say that we were hardly watching Russian films in Pakistan. We were watching American films in Pakistan for the past, uh, in the territory of Pakistan for the past 100 years, because European filmmakers or the filmmakers from the first world were coming to India since the times of the British, right? So when first film was produced in 1896, Lumiere brothers came to India and they showed their first film of 12 images. That was, I believe, that must have been some kind of PowerPoint presentation at the time. There was no technology such as PowerPoint presentation at that time, but people had learned that these images, when they are played at a certain speed, they give the impression of movement, right? So what I'm saying, that those 12 images that were shown to Indian people in one of Bombay hotels back in 1896 actually gave the impression of moving image, right? And then over a period of time, when they learned that the moving images have to appear in a certain number per second, only then the speed would be suitable for human eye, and it would give the impression of real life motion. If you watch old films by Charlie Chaplin, you would realize that Chaplin appears to be walking slow. It appears funny because in those when those films were shot, the filmmakers probably did not know that they need at least 24 frames to give the impression of real life movement. Okay, and then when they finally learned that they need 24 frames minimum to give the impression of real time movement, the technology was definitely improved to have that kind of or that number of frames per second. Television in Pakistan has 25 frames per second, which means you actually see 25 images per second, and that gives you the impression of real-time movement. Pakistani film uses 24 frame per second kind of, you know, to give you the impression of real-time movement. And in different countries, this number of frames per second may change, because in some parts of the world, 29 frames per second was used. And that's why I'm saying that Vertov and Padavkin and Eisenstein, these people had actually invented different techniques. And these techniques were because Russian films were hardly exported for viewing at cinemas or theaters around the world. So you can say that at least Russians were participating in film festivals around the world. That's how Hollywood came across these filming techniques by Dziga Vertov. Padavkin and Eisenstein. Okay, so let's see uh, what these filmmakers are trying to show us in terms of editing techniques, and let's see what Padavkin is showing and what Eisenstein is doing, because these great filmmakers were actually drafting their techniques in text form as well. Today, most filmmakers say, "Oh, I am a filmmaker and I don't have to do writing." Present filmmakers, especially Pakistani filmmaker, hardly believes in writing what he has done in terms of editing or in terms of shooting. But these great filmmakers of the past from Russia not only were editing their films, but they were also writing details of their editing techniques or what they had done. Okay, so let's try watching what Eisenstein is showing here.
Hi there. Today we're going to talk about Russian filmmaker and theorist Sergei Eisenstein and his famous methods of montage.
Okay, so as I said that in film you do have different kind of shots. For example, a close-up or a long shot or a wide shot of a person or a building. So these shots actually become language or sentences of film language, right? Uh, Eisenstein used this kind of editing techniques, and for example, it says montage here. So montage actually implies that you show a number of images in one go, and I believe that people who are from TFT are familiar with montage. In a montage, you show a number of images in one go, and they give the impression of change in time, right? For example, at the start of a montage, you can show two children playing, and if they are running and you are showing images of their feet, they keep running. And when you pull back or show their long shot again, they are no longer children, but actually adults running in the same style. So montage actually shows difference in terms of time. At the beginning of a montage or by showing a number of images in a montage, you give the impression that time has changed or time lapse is shown, right? So it says that Eisenstein, when he edited his film, after editing his film, he said, okay, what he had done, he said, I have used metric montage, I have used rhythmic montage, tonal and overtonal and intellectual montage while editing my film, right? So you can say that Eisenstein was actually thinking while editing, and he was learning about his own work. So most filmmakers today may not actually write down details of what they have done, but Eisenstein actually wrote what he did. So metric, rhythmic, tonal, and overtonal and intellectual montage are actually referring to the film language, which means that the filmmaker greatly believes that film language is also intellectual, right? So intellect is not limited to people who are writing things, but it is also about filmmakers who are creating this kind of language which has complete meanings as tonal, overtonal, or intellectual, which means tonal and overtonal actually refer to psychological impression that is created through the film, and intellectual, as the word implies, is about the intellectual impression that is created through the images. So let's see what this editor actually says about Eisenstein's editing techniques in terms of metric, rhythmic, tonal, overtonal, and intellectual montage. Okay.
Since the word montage has come to mean any edited sequence, it's important to note that while all montage contains editing, not all editing is true montage with a capital M. If the cut simply shows us another physical angle of the scene, coverage as it is commonly known, this is not montage in the Soviet sense of the word. According to Eisenstein, montage was combining shots that are depictive, single in meaning, neutral in content, into intellectual contexts and series.
Any questions so far? Any question?
मिस आप आगे प्ले कर दें, आई थिंक वो एक्सप्लेन कर देगा आगे
Okay.
जाके.
All right. All he's saying that if you are looking at these shots individually, they will appear quite neutral in meaning. They will not communicate the meaning that they communicate together. Okay.
In other words, two neutral images colliding to illustrate a third, undepictable thing.
So you can see that image on the left remained the same, but image on the right was changing. Did you notice what three images he just showed you? Right? Did anyone notice the change in the three images on the right side?
Yes.
Neutral images colliding to illustrate a third, undepictable thing.
Right? So the first one on the right showed us a cup of soup, the second a coffin, and the third a woman lying on a sofa. So all it says that when it was man and soup, it was just showing that somebody was hungry, right? When it was man and coffin, it reflected grief, and when it's man and woman, it's about lust kind of thing. Okay, so this is what he basically means by change in the intellectual meaning through images. So just by showing change in the image on the right, he has just created three different meanings.
So now that we have a basic understanding of what montage is and isn't, let's dive into Eisenstein's 5 methods. Metric montage is cutting according to an exact measured meter or length of time, irregardless of the content of the shot itself.
Okay, so here try noticing that whatever number of shots or images appears here, all of them have more or less same duration. So you can say that these images appear for the same amount of time, or they disappear after the same amount of time. So one shot does not stay there longer than the other. In fact, all shots use same kind of duration in this particular montage. I'm playing it now.
Eisenstein cites the patriotic demonstrations from the end of St. Petersburg as an example of metric montage. Here, the cuts are made irregardless of their individual content, but rather to create a sense of chaos amid the gunfire and explosions. Another utilization of metric montage is in ratcheting up tension by shortening the pieces while preserving the original proportions of the film. Also,
so is it clear what metric montage exactly means? All I said, it means that whatever chaos or problem they are showing, each shot is there for exactly the same amount of time, right? So these images appear one after the other, but their duration is the same. And for having used similar duration, he's calling it metric montage, and he's saying it's best for showing chaos. Okay, so while watching films or while writing a paper on any of the films, you can try seeing if it has some kind of montage, and if the montage is metric or rhythmic or tonal or overtonal or intellectual. Let's see what he says in the next one.
Referred to as continuity editing, rhythmic montage is the easiest to spot and most widely used method of montage. Everything from car chases to dialogue scenes utilize rhythmic montage.
No animal jokes.
Well, I only got the chance to say one because we only did one show.
In rhythmic montage, each shot's practical length derives from the specifics of the piece and from its planned length according to the structure of the sequence. The Odessa Steps sequence from Eisenstein's own battleship Potemkin is a prime and most frequently cited example of rhythmic montage, and indeed has been homaged and parodied many times throughout the years. Now, montage methods are not mutually exclusive, and metric and rhythmic elements are certainly found within our next two methods. Tonal montage.
Any question about the rhythmic montage? He's saying it's more about continuity of scene, like kind of action that is taking place non-stop. So rhythmic is actually focusing on continuous action. We just saw uh, again a situation which was quite problematic because I think Eisenstein was shooting many films around the time of Tsar of Russia. That's a kind of dictator, you know, like we call dictators in the West. Tsar was also a dictator, so Eisenstein was shooting films like October, Battleship Potemkin, and a few different films. So he was actually producing films on the kind of situations which were actually real in his times. For example, Battleship Potemkin actually focuses on real mutiny, but it only reproduces mutiny in the film Battleship Potemkin by showing by showing the difference between the orders of the command and the poor sailor reacting to the order, because in Battleship Potemkin the mutiny actually started with the sailors' refusal to eat meat that had worms in it, and the captain was telling them to eat it, and that's how sailors actually uh, refused to eat, and that's how it started. And that's why I'm saying that Eisenstein was actually shooting films on real life situations that had happened in Russia around the time. October Strike, Battleship Potemkin are few examples. So rhythmic montage focuses more on continuity in different kind of shots and continuous action. And rhythmic montage actually does not contain all shots of equal duration, right? Now let's see tonal montage, as it implies it's actually setting up the emotional tone of whatever you are going to watch just now. So focus is more on emotions.
Which is based on the characteristic emotional sound of the piece. That's great, Sergey, but what exactly does it mean? Well, think of tone in this sense as any visual or oral characteristic that two different shots could share in common. An example from the more recent The Revenant perfectly illustrates not just one, but several instances of tonal montage in sequence. In the following edits, it is a motif of fogginess or haze that unifies the shots. There are other tonalities you can use as the basis for your montage as well. Wong Kar-wai uses graphical or compositional tonality as a basis for montage in his acclaimed In the Mood for Love, as both main characters are discovered at their writing desks, framed within the additional frames of the set architecture, tonally connected to the idea that they are both trapped alone in their circumstances. In these series of shots from Martin Scorsese's The Age of Innocence, light tonality drives the edits. In this cut from Apocalypse Now, oral tonality is utilized.
Okay, so did you just realize that he was talking about images and sounds? Images and sounds, and how images and sounds are used to create this tonal impact or psychological impact. At the start, we were looking at a man lying on the ground, and we could hear him breathe heavily while he was lying on the ground. And as you saw, that his heavy breath was actually creating some kind of grayish effect on the camera, which actually that he called haze. He said this haze actually develops into the real haze. So you can see that some kind of haze is shown here. You can hear him while he's lying on the ground. If you notice, so this is this tonal impression is built up not just through images, but also through sounds. And while discussing tonal impact, he's constantly talking about the kind of images or the kind of sounds that are used to create tonal impression, right? So you can hear this man lying on the ground, and you can see that he breathes so heavily that this kind of haze is created. And in the next image, this haze becomes the real
Of
haze
fogginess or haze that
because
unifies the
of,
shots.
see, this haze is because of the weather, and that haze was because of the person lying on the ground. So in terms of you can see that both the images actually create very cold kind of impression. So haze is constantly developing from the first one to the second one, while you are also hearing sounds of a man breathing heavily, and the sounds that are definitely used in this part. So tonal impact is actually created through both visual and oral, which means image and sound. Okay, and you can still hear the person while you're looking at these mountains. You can still hear the man who was lying on the ground. So that is the reason he's saying that tonal includes both visual and sound kind of effect for creating the tonal or psychological impression. And as he moves on, he's talking about light tonality, and in the light tonality, you just notice that a man was here. He was talking about color tonality, and light tonality when he's talking about a man sitting on a bench outside this house. So he's sitting on the bench and looking at the window, and the light is reflected from the window. You can see the impression of light on his forehead, and then also on top of sea waves.
The age of innocence, light tonality drives the edits.
See, the light that was actually shown on the window is actually is also shown crossing his forehead or his eyes, and it keeps developing from here. See, and the light tonality continuously is shown in 3 shots. You can see the light tonality on the window, on top of his forehead, and on these waves of the sea, right? So you can actually see that he's talking about impressions or tonality that is created through images, through colors, through light, or through sound, and that sound actually continues. Here, he said that he talked more about the colors, and both protagonists being caught in their loneliness but in different places. You can also see that for creating this kind of tonality, he's actually talking about, he's also talking about simultaneous action, because the female protagonist is sitting
as a
in
basis
a
for
different
montage
place,
in his acclaimed,
right? And the male protagonist is sitting in a different place. So basically, he's showing 2 different actions simultaneously. So in terms of tonality, it's not just the light or the sound or the colors that are used to create tonal impression, but simultaneous action is also used in this particular scene to enhance the impact of tonality. Okay, so let's see what he says after this one.
In this cut from Apocalypse Now, oral tonality is utilized.
Right. So the man was screaming, and that scream is juxtaposed to the sound created by the wings of this chopper. So you can see that oral tonality is used, which means sounds are used. Scream juxtaposes the sound of this chopper or helicopter, and you can say that oral tonality is used here to emphasize the action.
Overtonal is by its nature more abstract and complicated than the methods discussed up until now. As Eisenstein puts it, from the moment that overtones can be heard parallel with the basic sound, there also can be sensed vibrations, oscillations that cease to impress as tones, but rather as purely physical displacements of the perceived impression. One scene famous for cross-cutting and rife with overtonal montage is the baptism sequence from The Godfather Part 1. Many themes, tones, and overtones intermingle in this sequence that treats violence as a holy writ, shows the connection between religion and corruption, and sanctifies the actions of a murderer.
I do renounce them.
Filmmakers like Terrence Malick and David Lynch, famous for their poetic approach to filmmaking, where mood and tone supersede logic and plot, oftentimes rely heavily on overtonal montage. Eisenstein said intellectual montage.
So is it clear what is meant by overtonal montage? Because in the overtonal, he not only used the tonal, but overtonal creates a stronger psychological impression. For this image, he also mentioned poetic, right? So by poetic, he is just talking about the style of shooting, because the way this shot is taken, you can see the sea waves, and you are looking at this person in the water from under. So overall impression is quite
mood and
poetic,
tone supersede logic and
right?
plot. Famous.
So, but in this part, you could see that the murderer actually trapped this man in the doors, because before he could cross the door and enter in the big hall, the murderer actually locks him here. And in the one before it, like this guy is there for massage, and the murderer enters this place and shoots right in his eye. So that's why he's saying that tonal and overtonal are mixed together to create a stronger emotional impact. Right here, a man is sitting in a church while this other murder is taking place here. So by showing a church scene, by juxtaposing the church scene to this scene of murder, the overtonal impact is enhanced, and you can see that Godfather was not involved in the crime, because he was sitting in a church at the time, and baptizing ceremony of his son was taking place. So baptizing is overlapped or juxtaposed to the murder scene. So which means that these two different kind of actions are actually very different in terms of their nature. One is inside a church, and one is at this place showing murder. So instead of creating a peaceful kind of impression, overtonal impact is created through the kind of sequences that are cut together. So montage is here, you can say that it's kind of parallel action taking place. By parallel, I mean that this action inside the church is very different from this action somewhere else, where somebody is being murdered. Okay, so these two, when they are intercut in a parallel form, they create a much stronger overtonal impact. And you can actually discuss what the editor has done, or what the filmmaker has done, or how the filmmaker has used editing to create overtonal impressions.
Between religion and corruption, and sanctifies the actions of a murderer.
Right, he just used religion and corruption. So religion, because the first sequence is shot in a scene in a church, and corruption, because right here somebody is murdering someone because maybe he's not part of their corruption. So religion and corruption, when they are cut together, you can say that overtonal impact is created, but at the same time, perhaps an intellectual meaning is also created by showing different kind of images here.
Murderer.
I do renounce them.
Filmmakers like Terrence Malick and David Lynch, famous for their poetic approach to filmmaking, where mood and tone supersede logic and plot, oftentimes rely heavily on overtonal montage. Eisenstein said intellectual montage is montage not of general physiological overtonal sounds, but of sounds and overtones of an intellectual sort. One glaringly obvious example from a well-known film is the cross-cutting of the caribou being slaughtered with Willard killing Colonel Kurtz in Apocalypse Now.
So any idea why he is calling it intellectual montage? Right? So intellectual montage, because he is talking about intercutting of this scene. You can see how they are butchering this, this animal right here, and how somebody is butchering a man is butchering a man in the next one. So basically meanings that perhaps there is no difference between killing an animal and between killing a human. Okay, so that is why he's saying that these two scenes are not only overtonal but also intellectual, in the sense that murdering or killing an animal is no different from murdering or killing a human. So that is why he's saying that by intercutting two sequences or two scenes that are actually happening in two different places, by intercutting parallel action happening in two different places, the editor has actually created an intellectual meaning. So that's why he's saying intellectual montage is created here. I hope you understand what I mean by parallel action, because this one where somebody is killing a human is a different scene, and this one where somebody is killing an animal is a different scene. So these two scenes are actually shot in two different places at two different times. Maybe it took the director the whole day to shoot this one, because you can see a lot of audience sitting around this place watching these people killing the animal, right? And this one is taking place in somewhere else. So he has actually intercut two parallel scenes in which a human is murdered and an animal is killed in a similar style. So basically, barbarianism is shown through parallel action, creating a meaning that for these people there is no difference in killing an animal or in killing a human. For them, it is one and the same thing.
The famous match cut in 2001: A Space Odyssey, from the bone to the orbital weapon satellite, it's another prime example of intellect.
Okay, so this is what he meant by match cut. Here you see a bone flying in the air, and from the bone flying in the air, you actually end up looking at a scientific
So there you have
kind
it, folks.
of thing.
Eisenstein's 5 methods of montage explain.
Okay, so from the bone, he cut to, I think it was some kind of satellite or that kind of image. So basically, two different kind of things are shown that probably look equal in size and equal in terms of their placement. You can see that this bone is also is in the middle of the frame. It's still
satellite. It's another.
And this one is also in the middle of the frame, and
this match cut in 2001: A Space Odyssey, from the bone to the
from this bone
orbital weapon satellite.
To this
it's
one,
another prime example.
This satellite, basically both appear in similar size. Though the two items are actually very different. The first one he said was a bone, and this is a satellite. So you are saying, in terms of composition, these two actually appear in the middle of the frame, right? So that is the reason he's saying match cut to create a meaning, or a match cut to create the kind of contrast that will be very suitable for the viewer's eyes. And when the viewers watch this kind of scenes, the overall impression or meaning of these scenes together will be very strong.
Example of.
Any question about Eisenstein's editing techniques, or the way Eisenstein used images to create meanings?
No, miss.
Okay. So right here, uh, we are looking at, okay, I think it wasn't very clear in this one, but as I have said, that she's thinking about her own childhood with pages moving, and another child is sitting in the room, and you could see that leitmotif was used in a certain way. Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum is a better example of leitmotif, and I can also try showing you leitmotif in in a scene right here. Uh, for example, uh, try, when I meant what I meant, try understanding what I meant by Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, because, okay, so what you were hearing was leitmotif. So this particular production had, I think, at least 26 episodes, and the sound that you just heard, appeared in each one of those 20 episodes. Not only at the start, but in the middle, at many places, you would be hearing this same leitmotif. So this leitmotif is appearing with this V sign, right? So it is just showing that Americans were actually imagining victory, V for victory. So whatever sound was heard here is called leitmotif. So I'm saying that leitmotif is something that helps you identify a person or a place. So leitmotif will appear with a certain person or a place. It is a theme that keeps recurring in many cases. So you can say that leitmotif is a particular kind of sound in comedies. It appears with a certain person. Every time you see that person or every time that person speaks, you would hear a funny sound. So that would be the leitmotif. Okay, I did mention diegetic and non-diegetic sounds in one of my previous lectures. Do you remember what is meant by diegetic and non-diegetic sound? Because diegetic sound, non-diegetic sounds, and leitmotifs are actually the terminologies that are always used when we are talking about sound of a certain kind. Can you recall that I mentioned
diegetic में फिर source नजर आ रहा होता है.
Yes, in diegetic sounds.
Non-diegetic में मेरे ख्याल.
Yes, in non-diegetic sound, you do not see the source that creates sound. For example, if I am talking and you are seeing my face, it means that you are looking at, it is diegetic sound because you can see the source of sound. A person who is talking and you can hear him on screen means that you have used diegetic sound. But if you are showing people sitting in a room and and you hear the dog barking, it means that if the dog is not there in the scene, it means you have used non-diegetic sound to create meaning, which means that perhaps people are very disturbed. They are trying to sleep in their rooms and the dog is barking outside. The dog is not visible in screen, but you can certainly see that people are unable to sleep. So diegetic sound is used to create certain meaning or situation that implies. Gee, any questions about any of the content or any meaning of the content that we have discussed so far? No question? So it says that Padavkin mentions 5 editing principles. They are contrast, and I think we just noticed what contrast means in terms of images. We could see happiness and sadness in the same scene. We could see life and death in the same scene. So contrast is not about is not just about the contrast in images, which means if you're showing a rich man and a poor man in the same scene, we are actually talking about contrast. If we are showing a child and an old man, we are again referring to contrast. And if we are showing it through emotions like happiness and sadness, we are talking about contrast. We have also discussed parallelism, how parallel action creates different meaning by showing different situations, which may be different in terms of times, in terms of occurrences. So it's important to understand, I said it's important to understand the difference between parallel action and simultaneous action, because both show situations uh, or both show different scenes, but in parallel actions, the time of those scenes is not simultaneous. So parallel action shows two different scenes. It shows intercutting between two different scenes, but the time is not constant in either. We have also discussed symbolism, and symbolic action can be created in many different ways. Lighting can be used. We were looking at meaning that was created through uh, in lightings or action. For example, butchering an animal or butchering a human being, killing an animal or killing a human being have a symbolic meaning in terms of cruelty, and in terms of like there is no difference between killing a human or killing an animal. And we also discuss leitmotif just now. Okay, so it says that Padavkin, in other words, you can say the filmmakers purposefully use simultaneous action or parallel action or contrast or leitmotif to give specific meanings to their content, or give specific meaning of the film, or to enhance the impact of overall film. Okay, so they do it purposefully is all it says. And it also says that these editing techniques are used for psychological guidance of the viewer, right? So the viewer, when he watches the film produced through this kind of editing methods, he is psychologically guided by the filmmaker to understand the meaning of the film, or to understand film language or grammar in a certain style. Okay, so all it says that contrast is supposed to make us understand miserable situation of one and impressive situation of another. So it kind of creates senseless gluttony of a well-to-do man with the miserable situation of another, right? So it's just saying that if an elite is shown, uh, if he's shown insensitive to the situation of the miserable man, the contrast is actually established by showing a starving man and a man sitting on a dining table with all kinds of food right in front of him, right? Uh, okay, so it says that contrast increases the overall impression or overall the meaning of a certain situation or sequences. The contrast forces the spectator to compare two different actions all the time, and contrast uh, actually strengthens the meaning of one action against the other. So if a poor man is starving and a rich man is having a variety of foods on his table, on his dining table, the overall meaning of the two different shots would be strengthened through the contrast. the contrast would make it very difficult for the viewer to forget the difference between the situations of the two. So contrast is a very meaningful form of editing, and when you use different kind of shots, the contrast is made stronger. Here he's saying in when he discusses parallelism, he's actually talking about two different sequences that relate to death of one person and life of the other person. So in here, parallel action does involve some kind of contrast, but he's saying that a man is about to be hanged at 5 a.m. in the morning, right? So this action is intercut with another action or another scenario in which a man leaves probably a bar at 4 in the morning and he's going to his home to sleep. And at that very moment, another man is being taken to a place where he will be hanged, right? So the factory owner leaves the bar, the employer of the condemned man. He's leaving the bar at 4 o'clock in the morning, while it is intercut with the situation where the factory worker is about to be hanged, right? So the two actions are intercut, one of leaving the bar and one of the man being prepared for hanging, and it is constantly intercutting between the situations where the drunk guy asks the time when and then you show the person who is about to be hanged leaving the prison, and then you show the drunk guy, his maid is opening the door for him to enter the home, and you look at the wife of the condemned guy in another scene. So the two situations continue developing. In one situation is showing misery of one person, and the other is showing he has everything to enjoy. He would leave drunk at 4 in the morning, go home, and somebody will open door for him, right? So assault is cut against corruption of another, right? So it says that we finally see the factory owner lying on bed snoring, and his trouser upturned, with hand hanging down the bed, and the camera actually moves to the watch on his wrist, and you see 5 o'clock on the watch on his wrist, and this scene is intercut with the man being hanged at 5 a.m. So basically, the two incidences are intercut, in one of which a drunk factory owner reaches home, lies down on his bed, and goes to sleep, and the factory worker actually faces death sentence at the same time. So these are two parallel actions, and you can see that in this parallel action there is a lot of simultaneity as well, because right now this parallel action is showing simultaneous impact as well. The workman is hanged, and the factory owner is lying on the bed. So his relationship with the two scenes actually establishes him as a callous brute, right? And the other guy is hanged. He's explaining symbolism through, like it says in the final scene of the film Strike, and I said Eisenstein is the filmmaker. Okay, so it says that the final scene of Strike actually shows shooting of the workman, right? And slaughter of a bull. Okay, right here. So I'm saying he's again repeating the same thing, that the punctuation. He's talking about punctuation write in the manner we talk about punctuation in normal language, right? So he's saying these two scenes are punctuated. Slaughter is punctuated with shooting down of a workman. Okay, so again, symbolically, the two images together will create a third meaning that would relate to cruelty or cold-blooded murder, right? So cruelty, where you are saying there is no difference between the two. And he says that symbolism is very interesting mean of editing. It introduces abstract concepts of consciousness of the spectator without use of a title. So I think I believe you understand why it is saying abstract concept, because the film is not saying in words that slaughter, animal slaughter or manslaughter or butchering is similar. He doesn't say it in words, but you see it through the images that there is no difference between the two. Okay, so it says that symbolism actually addresses the consciousness of the spectator without use of a title. You don't see the words. Screenwriter has not written any dialogues, but images that create a symbolic meaning together. Okay, so when for simultaneous action, it further says that when you are showing two actions or when you are intercutting between two actions that are happening at the same time, outcome of one action depends on the outcome of the other, right? Uh, for instance, in this film, I wonder if you have seen the film Jaane Tu, the Indian film Jaane Na Jaane Tu. I think that was Amir Khan, uh, sorry, uh, Imran Khan's first film, uh, Jaane Na Jaane Tu. Uh, have you Are you familiar with this film and this actor Imran Khan? He's Amir Khan's nephew. Okay, so at this point, so you can see that in this particular sequence, Imran Khan is coming to the airport on his horse, and female protagonist is leaving India, right? So, as a matter of fact, the filmmaker has intercut in between two scenes that are happening in two different places, because Imran Khan leaves jail and he's going to the airport, and the female protagonist is actually leaving India. So he has to actually reach the airport in time to make sure that to make it a happy ending film, right? So from this point onwards, you are only watching what happens on the airport, because she's about to board the board the plane, and he's entering the airport without any kind of boarding pass, and police is following him. So you can see simultaneous action, things happening simultaneously, two different scenes. Uh, the editor actually, or the filmmaker actually intercuts between two different situations to enhance the overall impression of the scene. So it says that the development of two actions actually, outcome of one depends on the outcome of the other, and end of the day, the present day, overall impact of the two is enhanced, and tension and excitement is created by intercutting intercutting simultaneous action. Okay, So it says that simultaneity is actually an emotional one, uh, tonal, which means simultaneous action is also tonal. So it's an emotional man, and it creates interest of the viewer, and it also, as excitement is enhanced, the viewer is not bored uh, because of whatever action is there on screen. Okay, and lead motive, I think I have already explained that lead motive has a very strong content. It is about sound, and it has a very strong relationship with the tonal or overtonal impact that is created through the film. Here he's only mentioning, like all of these editing techniques, or in the first one we did discuss montages, 5 different types of montages created by Eisenstein, that were metric montage, rhythmic montage, tonal, overtonal, and intellectual montage. So here he's just talking a bit about, like when Hollywood first started using this kind of editing techniques or montages. It says a montage is created through an assembly of quick cuts, right? So when we were talking about metric montage, we looked at different shots, like all shots were all shots were shot separately. For example, I said metric montage shows shots of equal duration, right? Equal duration only means that if you're showing one shot for 3 seconds, you will show the next shot for 3 seconds. It wouldn't be possible to show shots of 3 second, 5 second, followed by shots of 10 seconds. Metric montage has all shots of equal length, right? And rhythmic was more about continuity, and he had said that you see an action developing. For example, car chases are quite continuous. You see an action developing at a certain pace, and it never said that you will show all shots of equal duration, because you're focusing on rhythm, and rhythm is created, okay. So rhythm is created through shots of different duration on screen, right? I have said it before that if you are familiar with editing, I can try showing you how the editing screen looks like. Just hold on a minute. So let's share a different screen. So for example, if this is where you are editing, you would say that, let me, for example, when you lay things on the line, this is the line, it says 1 and 2 right here. 1 is about images and 2 is about audio, right? So if when you play sound on this, this is the editing software, so you will play all images on this one, on the line over here. One shot will be there for 3 seconds, and another shot will be there for 5 seconds, and perhaps still another shot will be there for 10 seconds, or perhaps just a few seconds, right? So all it means that when you are editing different kind of film shots together, or when you are editing a film, it implies, can you see this text here? I said rhythm is created by putting shots of different length together horizontally, because the line that I was showing you just now was a horizontal line. So when you put uh, a few shots of different duration on this line, which means they are not like metric montage. Rhythm is created by putting shots of different lengths together on the line. So rhythm is a horizontal element in film, and tempo is something which you can say is vertical, right? So the scene that we were watching earlier was using both rhythm and tempo, because you can see that tempo is building and emotional impact is building. And I said rhythm is horizontal and tempo is vertical. So tempo, when you are listening to music or when you're watching a film, tempo is constantly going up and down, up and down. So tempo, that's why I'm saying tempo is vertical. And that is also the reason I'm saying rhythm is horizontal, because rhythm is created by putting shots of different lengths together horizontally, which means you are putting them on the line to create rhythm, right? So it all it says that a montage uses quick cuts disconnected in time or place. So it's not essential that you are showing shots of one scene, right? uh, for example, when we say that when we are talking about car chases and rhythmic montage, we can be at one place at one time. For example, the car may be on the bridge, the car may be passing through the mountains, right? Or a helicopter may be following the car. So it's if you're showing it in one go in continuity, we are talking about rhythmic montage. But if we are showing images that are disconnected, for example, what happened when the two people were separated, and you are showing that what happened to any of those two people or what happened in their surroundings. You are intercutting in different images which are disconnected in time or place. You are actually creating montage, right? So but he's saying that the meaning of montage was originally something else, but now it is more frequently used to use to convey a meaning like passage of time, coming of age, or emotional transition. So montage is also used for creating emotional transition. Montage is a Russian word, while there are certain other words that are used in editing to create meaning, or in film language presently we have words that are Russian, we also have words that are French, or words that are probably British, which means that film language is something that is created by filmmakers around the world, right? So if Russians introduced the word montage and filmmakers living in US, UK, or France started using the word montage, you can say that vocabulary was created by filmmakers together. Mise en scène is a word, is a French word. And when we talk about cinema verite, we are talking about an Italian word which is very popular in film language. But when we talk about new wave, it's a replica of cinema verite, but new wave is more a French word, right? In Pakistan, new wave was there back in 1959, you can say, because A.R. Kardar produced Jago Hua Savera. It was more of a film of that kind. But in the past few years, this new wave was again used in Pakistan. This word was used again in Pakistan because I think that filmmakers started talking about films that, for example, Jami made. He shot a film in Quetta, Balochistan. Its title was Moor, and a few other films that created the kind of impression that Pakistani media started reporting the arrival of a new wave in Pakistan, I would say in 2015, 2016 kind of years. So this cinema verite was in Italy in 1938. In France, it was called New Wave in 1940-41. So you can say right a year after. What I actually mean that film language and film vocabulary are used by these filmmakers all over the world. And even the montage is a Russian word, mise en scène is a French word, and there would still be another word that British have introduced because there is non-stop development in editing techniques or filmmaking techniques. And you can say that whoever develops a certain technique or certain word that is used by filmmakers all over the world, right? So uh, when when we see, when we were looking at a scene earlier where I said that this man is lying on ground, and you could hear him breathe heavily, and his breath created an impression of haze in front of the camera, and that haze was replaced by haze in the middle of the mountains. So you could see that while we were looking at that mountain scene, we could still hear that man lying on the ground, right? So it means that the audio or the sound from the earlier shot was also laid underneath the shot, the next one, right? So we could hear man breathe heavily while we were looking at the mountain shot. It means that the editor probably had used L cut. L in meaning that sound is the sound of one shot is laid underneath the next one, right? So if it is if the shot follows, then they call it L cut. And if the sound, if the thunder was laid under the man lying on the floor, right? So then they would call it J cut, which means that the sound of the second is laid under the image of the first. And if you are laying the sound of the first under the second, then they call it L cut. You don't need to remember these J and L cuts. I'm mentioning these because all I mean that in film world, this kind of language is used, and these terminologies are created by people living in different countries. And over past 100 years or more, this language has become very important for all filmmakers. So one word would be Russian, another would be French or British or perhaps even German or Spanish. It really depends because all these countries started making films. Back, you can say the first word started making it in 1896, and the Russians were close behind, right? But Russians did develop all this film, they started developing this film language. So in D.W. Griffith, film from America in 1914, you would see that Griffith started using a variety of shots to create meaning. What do I mean by variety of shots? I only mean that before Griffith, film was probably more a kind of, it was shot showing wide shots. And Griffith started using close up, mid shot, long shot, establishing shot. He created difference with his style of shooting, right? So that's why I was saying, and Griffith also introduced uh, the use of language, like speech uh, through images, because he was the first one to show actors carrying dialogues in their hands, because there was no sound, like voice was not there, sound was not there in films. So what Griffith did, he handed over, he wrote these dialogues on posters, and actors would actually appear on screen showing the poster. So he will cut between the image of the actor and the image of text written on screen. And from that point in time, it took probably another 15 or 17 years that sound was introduced in cinema. So I'm saying that as and when technology was introduced, uh, it was used in other countries with the same meanings or same vocabulary. Okay, so that's why I'm saying. So montage, French were calling it assemble, but everybody stopped calling it assemble because montage become more popular, and it was a Russian word. So Citizen Kane is an American film, and the author of this article is actually referring to Citizen Kane to explain what montage exactly means. Okay, let me show you a scene from Citizen Kane.
Even newspapermen have to sleep.
I'll call Mr. Bernstein, have him put off my appointments until noon. What time is it?
I don't know, it's late.
It's early.
Listen, Charles, it's not you.
So
That's a
People will think.
what I tell them to.
you may have noticed that when we shift from here, like at the start of this sequence, they looked younger, right? They are sitting here, they look younger here, okay? And
I'm on the
it's
newspaper.
the same couple,
Time.
right? Same couple still sitting on that table and talking to each other, right? So from in about 2 minutes and 39 seconds, you are looking at this montage from 1941 film. And it only shows that how these two people have changed, and how their relationship is changing over a period of time. And this montage is showing that they are still sitting on the dining table from this point to this point. You can see that her look is changing and his look is also changing, right? So, but it is the same dining table all the way through. Okay. And you can also see how their relationship is changing, how they were talking at the start of the scene, and how they are talking and how they are treating each other towards the end of the scene. For example, he enters here, he gives her a lot of good comments, appreciates her beauty, and like he enters here, he is talking to her and giving her a kiss. And as it goes on, they are having a kind of argument in this scene, and still you can see what kind of impression he has on his face at this point. And at this point, she's reading the newspaper. So their attention towards each other has also changed from this point to this point, right? He's reading newspaper, she's reading newspaper. So they are perhaps paying less attention to each other, and they are still sitting on the same dining table. Okay. So through this montage, he has actually He has done what he said earlier, that montage actually shows events or images that are disconnected in terms of time and place. And in the scene from Citizen Kane, we could see that it is also reflecting on the change in time, in their emotion, in their reaction towards each other. So it just says that Citizen Kane used identically constructed montages all the way through, right? Because in this particular scene, all these scenes were identical. It was the same dining table. The couple is sitting, but their body language is changing. So this man is actually talking about a situation that develops here. From here, you can see that how this situation is constantly developing and changing, and how their relationship is changing and developing over a period of time, right? So this montage has actually used identical situations, identical in terms of environment, identical in terms of action. So it is saying that Citizen Kane actually used a number of superb montages. These are almost identically constructed and are used to depict Kane's disintegrated relationship. Okay, so with his first and second wife. So with his first and second wife, you can probably try seeing if this woman is the same as this woman, right? So this you'll have to watch the film to understand if this woman is the same as this one. Okay, all right, so it is just saying that you can see that same dining table, but by the end of the sequence, the woman is no longer sitting close to him on the table, but they are sitting on two far ends, right? That the author says shows disintegration of marital relationship of Kane with his first and second wife. And this is not the only scene that this film includes. It says that Citizen Kane uses a number of different montages to show this kind of action or disintegration in the relationships or in their behavior. Citizen Kane has another montage in which Susan is, she's playing. You may have worked on puzzles yourself, whereby people use puzzles or play with puzzles or solve puzzles. Okay, so it says in Susan montage, you would see Susan working on a puzzle. And montage probably is there for some time. We can try looking for that montage as well. Citizen Kane. So while she's working on the puzzle, I think we also have images. Citizen Kane.
Questions. Of course, we're different because we live in a palace.
You always said you wanted to live in a palace.
Oh, a person could go crazy in this dump. Nobody to talk to, nobody to have any fun with.
Susan.
49,000 acres of nothing but scenery and statues. I'm lonesome.
Till just yesterday, we've had no less than 50 of your friends at any one time. I think if you look carefully in the West Wing, Susan, you'll find about a dozen.
Right. In the earlier part, she looks younger and she's dressed differently. And as the scene develops and you look at close shots of hands, you would continuously notice that her jewelry in hands, for example, rings have changed, nail polish has changed. So the filmmaker is actually developing the scene constantly. The montage scene is actually showing change in time, and while playing while solving the puzzle, she has become old, and her husband at this point is actually criticizing that he does not understand what she is doing. Okay, so that's why I said that in this montage, uh, he's showing similar situation, same kind of identical situations he has used to develop the montage and to show change in time. Okay, all right. So Susan's montage actually shows how things have changed, the how characters have learned to argue with each other. So that again relate to what he said about the earlier montage, that disintegration of personal relationship between two characters. And Susan is still working on the puzzle, so relationship is probably also a puzzle for the two. And with the passage of time, the choice of puzzle making is an activity that cleverly reminds us that uh, you know uh, much as enigma to Susan as he is to the journalist. Because Citizen Kane is about somebody who owns the media industry, so you can actually see that this film actually is historic in many sense. And these were the scenes. These images are actually taken from the scene that we just noticed. In the first image, you can see that Susan is sitting there talking about the look of this place, which is just beautiful and is full of sceneries and sculptures. And in the next one, she's trying to solve the puzzle. And during this, you can keep looking at close shots of the hands making the puzzle, and how the scene changes. Okay, so it just says that these he he has added the dialogues here. If you want to read the dialogues, you can certainly read in the dialogues are added in the discussion, but we just watched the scene, and I think we don't need to read the dialogues because we have actually seen the dialogues between the two characters that reflect on their relationship, their aging, their argument style, and disintegration of marital relationship between the couple over a period of time. It just says that the film Piano, American Beauty, Time of the Gypsies, and many other beautiful films, or some films by Kaufman actually, Kaufman's adaptation also used adaptation as a cinematic tool, or adaptation as a means for developing the language of his film, or to create meanings through the content. Okay, it says that in adaptation, uh, Kaufman actually opens it with a black screen with a voiceover monologue. In fact, Citizen Kane also starts with a kind of monologue, and many films do begin with monologue where you start hearing voiceover before you start watching the film. So it is saying that Kaufman's adaptation uses a black screen with a voiceover. Voiceover, I hope you understand that voiceover is a particular word in film language, and it only means that you're listening to voice, but you are not, which would be non-diegetic voice, and you are not looking at the person himself. So monologue is used to establish the character, and then returns to voiceover, which poses the question where I am, why I am here, how did I get here. So it says that in a sweeping cinematic montage, we see a lot of conflict uh, through the images, because montage shows images that are disconnected with each other in time, in terms of time and place quite often. and they can be offering conflict. So film can offer conflict. Even what we saw earlier, though identical settings were used in those scenes, we could see that conflict was there as we were looking at a relationship disintegrate over a period of time. At the start, the husband and wife were sitting close to each other on the table and giving each other compliments. At the later part, in the later part of the sequence, they were sitting on far ends. So the conflict and disintegration impact was there and was very strong, right? So it just says that montage actually increases the dramatic value of the scene. It it depicts, it introduces us the scene, and it depicts uh, protagonist historical and philosophical continuum, which means if a relationship is disintegrated, it gives you a historical perspective. It also gives you a philosophical perspective. Okay, so right off right from the start, we start getting a clear picture, like how uh, what kind of answers protagonists are finding to their immediate needs. Citizen Kane perhaps reflects on a time when perhaps a disintegrating relationship does not mean getting divorced. Okay, so in present day America, we would probably say that if a husband and wife had a situation like this, and apparently they were very rich, so disintegration probably would end in a divorce in present day America. So that's why I'm saying that by looking at these images or montages from old scenes, you could also see how time has changed, how the infrastructure has changed, and how the culture has changed or culture has evolved over a period of time. Uh, Here, this sequence from the film adaptation is actually showing evolution, right? Evolution, which is of nature. So you can see there are certain images here. These images can actually, they are actually showing you the storyboard of the sequence. So you can see evolution of nature, and you can see evolution of man, right? So these three images on the left are showing how the landscape looked, and you could also see these dinosaurs in this one, and in the one at the bottom right, you can see a man who is not even properly standing up, right? So on the right hand side, you see two images in which you see an infant, though crying, he's properly dressed, he is wearing a sweater. And in the one underneath that, you can see a man sitting perhaps in a cafe, right? So cafe is the kind of thing that will not be there in this kind of place where this one in the middle looks like a Jurassic Park kind of thing, where you are seeing dinosaurs walking, right? So this was a different world, and a man sitting in the restaurant is a different kind of world. So you can see that this film adaptation 2002 actually uses montage to show evolution of both man and nature, right? So whatever amount of time you can conceive in terms of evolution would be fine. Okay, you may have heard of this film Psycho, right? It's a very famous film by Hitchcock from 1959. It says that Hitchcock used a number of different types of montages, and two distinct examples would be two murders that are actually included in this film. Okay, so Hitchcock shows a murder, and it says murder in shower scene, and another murder that he says stairwell scene. So these two murders are shot and edited entirely differently. So for showing two murders, Hitchcock did not use similar kind of situations or identical environment, right? So in Citizen Kane, we were looking at montages that were showing identical environment. By identical, it implies that husband and wife became very old while sitting on the table having breakfast, or while she was playing. Uh, puzzles, like she was solving the puzzles. So those two were showing identical situations, but Hitchcock is using different kind of montages to show murder. Okay, let's try watching how he shows murder in the shower scene. Let's see. You can see that this murder scene is not shot from her point of view, because if it was shot from her point of view, you will not be looking at her, right? So this murder scene is shot from murderer's point of view or psycho's point of view. She's in the bathroom taking bath, and murderer is watching, right? And you can see that this murder scene, this is a montage, which implies that montage actually is not showing you this montage is showing you murder from uh, psycho's point of view, and it's showing you a continuous action. You can see that the cameraman was actually capturing the mid shot while she's sliding down, against these tiles. All right, so this murder sequence completed in 3 minutes and 21 seconds. Here must have taken actually longer, even for the murderer to commit murder. But Hitchcock actually, it says that shower scenes, it in a rapid succession of cuts. The murder is completed in 45 seconds, right? So the whole scene was actually longer because it was showing the shower part and the murder part. Okay, so basically, all he's saying that murder is completed in 45 seconds, right? From the time he pulls the curtain, attacks her, and kills her. And I think here are the images. So you can see that if you exclude the shower scene, because shower scene is a bit long, it shows that how she starts it and how comfortable she is and she finds it very relaxing. So it comes to the relaxing point before the murderer attacks her. So murder part is actually completed within 45 seconds, that begin with this scream here, and her hand and feet, it shows close shots of her hand against the wall or the curtain, because she's raising her hand to hold the curtain, but instead she ends up pulling it down, right? And most of it is shown from murderer's point of view. It is not shot from her point of view. And then in this lower one, you are actually seeing her profile. But this one begins with a beautiful capturing of her eye, right? So you could see that this shot is beautifully completed, and in 45 seconds the murder is completed. Though the shower scene is actually of about 3 minutes and 21 seconds duration. It says that the second murder is shot entirely differently, because the focus is not on the brutality. On the first one that we just saw, the focus is on brutality, right? In the shower scene, the focus is on brutality, how he attacks her, how he keeps on stabbing her. So brutality is emphasized through constant stabbing in the shower. But the second scene does not emphasize on brutality of Psycho. It does emphasize on uh, suspense, right? So let's try seeing how the second scene is different from the first scene, right? I think here is the stairwell scene. So this scene creates suspense, more suspense than the impact of brutality.